So on completion of their grade 12, they should be capable of starting their own startup. To do it after college is too late. To do it after they get employment somewhere, it's too late. And therefore, this is a very, very important aspect for us to understand. And we are going to start on an experimental basis a startup school next session, where selected children from grade 9 to 12, will have to, as a part of their twinning program, do their IB and as well as do their entrepreneurial preparation when they graduate over there. So more about this again a little later. Now, leadership is now being redefined. Ladies and gentlemen, all entrepreneurs are leaders, but very few leaders are entrepreneurs. To be an entrepreneur is to be an innovator, to have an innovative mindset. To be an entrepreneur means not only to have creative ideas, but to turn those ideas either in the classroom, in the market, in society into a reality. So just having knowledge about is now part of history. So application of knowledge, and in the process of how we transform ourselves, this is what leadership, which I is a new definition of leadership, which we at Indus will now focus on. And in this regard, we are now seeing a grand partnership between teacher one, and that's the parents, and teacher two, who are the teachers in the school. Because entrepreneurship or leadership cannot be just developed by teachers and schools alone. They have to partner their parents, because aspects like vision, like purpose, like values, goals, it's a 24 by 7 assignment, and parents have to take greater responsibility than before in nurturing their child also in this area of entrepreneurship that I've spoken to you about. The third big shift, and I'll be more deliberate about it, is that so far there have been a lot of prejudices against online education. These prejudices, the world over, have been blown to bits. Online education is not a substitute for face to face, it is an alternative. It is here to stay in the future. The future is going to be blended learning, a combination of face to face and online. Online has got uh, great advantages. It is non-linear to begin with. Uh, it helps us in thinking, in research, in problem definition, and it helps now to develop a biliterate brain. If I ever have an opportunity to speak to you all later, I will speak to you that today the need of the hour is to have a biliterate brain. Our children are born with a plasma track. We are born with a paper track. We need both the tracks in this new world. Both are equally important. And it takes years and years to develop both the tracks. And when both the tracks are developed, we will have a biliterate brain. And that has to be the objective of blended learning, is to create a biliterate brain. So these are the three very big shifts that have taken place. Ladies and gentlemen, we will find drugs and vaccines to deal with corona. But second and third waves may come. In fact, in Wuhan, it has already arrived. In South Korea, it has already arrived. And we have to be prepared for it to happen in India as well as in other countries. But there is a larger threat which is already there at our front door, and we don't seem to be aware of it. It's climate change. Rather, I would say it's climate collapse. If the global temperatures go beyond 2 degrees Celsius in the next 1 year, the situation will be irretrievable. Whereas pandemics can be cured, climate change will take hundreds of years to deal with. And therefore, it's very, very important for us to understand that everything in the world is going to change. It must change. It's a good thing. Change is the law of evolution. We started from water molecules after the Big Bang, and we are what we are today. Chimpanzees are where they are today. They are our next in line. Therefore, it's very, very important for us to understand that we will be thinking differently, working differently, living differently, loving differently, doing everything differently. But we will do everything different and we will become better human beings. I think this is the important thing for us to understand. I think there are three or four very big impacts which Corona is having, and it impacts on what happens in your house, it impacts on what happens in the classroom. Future workplaces are being transformed into war zones. And I think the earlier we realize and accept this, that the Beirutization of society has started. We are in a war zone. Companies are in startup mode. Tomorrow, Apple may collapse in 24 hours. Apple may collapse, Amazon may collapse. There's no guarantee. Fortune 500 companies are already in a startup mode now. They can collapse. Look at the way Tesla is struggling to keep afloat. So everybody is in a startup mode. Teachers are in a startup mode. We can't have peacetime teachers now. We need wartime teachers. Wartime teachers are not driven by peacetime systems and processes. Wartime teachers are Corona warriors. Our teachers are Corona warriors. They are part of essential services. Cops and like healthcare personnel, our teachers are Corona warriors. So they cannot be teaching in a peacetime model. And therefore, a lot of background work has already started to happen in our schools on redefining the teacher not as a teacher, pre-Corona teacher, but in a post-Corona world, for want of any better phrase, I will say wartime teachers. Therefore, the aim of the purpose of education for your child is our assurance that when your child graduates from Indus, she and he will be startup ready. That is the bottom line. If the child is not startup ready, the child has got no future. We have failed. Collectively, we have failed. And therefore, irrespective of what marks a child gets, she can get 200 out of 100. But if she does not have the competencies to deal with the post-Corona world, she is not going to survive. It's our lifeline. And I would like parents to seriously consider having a gap year after DP. I strongly recommend that instead of our placement agencies, a placement team over here only placing people in colleges, they should place people after grade 12 in a gap mode as apprentices in startups in Bangalore. That is their role now. Of course, we're going to have a startup school now. And all the students who stay back for a gap year, we will provide them 100 support with the best brains in Bangalore to back them up. But this is for serious consideration. And I do hope that parents will give this serious thought. The second big thing that is happening now is obsolescence. Obsolescence, jobs, medicine, economy, politics, education, leadership, knowledge, whatever. We are living in a world where the shelf life of everything is limited. Even Moore's law is limited. Moore's law says that every 24 hours the computing power is going to double up. But ladies and gentlemen, everything can change in 24 days, in 24 hours, in 24 minutes as I speak to you now. It can change. Therefore, we have to ensure our children are future ready, and this is what I mean by startup ready. Therefore, that technology mindedness has got to come in there. To be technology minded, you don't have to be good in physics and chemistry. I'm not good in physics and chemistry and maths. I'm pathetic. But I'm very good in technology. I know what technology is required, where it will work, where it will not work, and I can innovate with technology. But I don't know. I leave that to the experts to do it. Coding has got to be a second language, more important than English, German, French, Spanish, whatever, Russian, whatever. And we have to be lifelong learners now. And we have to be able to learn on our own. So how to get over obsolescence is our ability to reskill ourselves. We have to reskill ourselves. Our children, our teachers, our parents, our society have to have the ability to reskill ourselves. We can only reskill ourselves if we are a lifelong learner, if we are adaptable, and we are innovative. And this brings me to the third big impact is the collapse of standardization. I say this with all seriousness at my command, and I address this bluntly to teachers, and I address this bluntly to parents and to every citizen of the country. Standardization is the enemy of innovation. Standardization is the enemy of innovation. Those who are standardizing everything, who are based on titles, on positions, on hierarchy, on command and control, what IB is saying, what CBSE is saying, what so and so person is saying over there, are going to be failures in life. They can never be innovative. And this is the important thing to understand, that the systems and processes which we require today are wartime systems and processes. Wartime systems and processes are situation driven. If we are in a lockdown in a particular situation, the pre-lockdown methodologies cannot work over here. We have to adapt quickly to change. And therefore, to say that this is what has been happening in the past is not going to work. We're going to put our society at great risk. Therefore, systems and processes which have evolved time systems and processes. We need wartime systems and processes. And that is an important message I would like to reach out to teachers and to parents. And the fourth very important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that at the moment the world is experiencing the greatest psychological experiment in which 7.2 billion people are exposed to this pandemic. We need to develop two things: psychological immunity against the toxic effects of quarantine, of isolation, of uncertainty, of the fear of the contagion, about our financial concerns, and cognitive immunity. Cognitive immunity against disinformation, fake news. 70% of what you are seeing on TV, WhatsApp is fake news. It's all disinformation. Distraction, memory loss, not being able to focus. I would say a parallel would be an infantile form of Parkinson, Alzheimer, and dementia. And human hacking. Today, states and corporations have the ability to hack human brains, to change our perceptions and behavior. Google knows more about me than I know about myself. So they can manipulate my thinking and my behavior. It's happened in Brexit. It's happened in American elections. It is happening every day on our mobile phones and on our computers. Therefore, this cognitive immunity is something which we have to lay a lot of emphasis on. But I would like to emphasize. Disconnected. I would like to emphasize one thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that this adversity that we are seeing now is going to make us stronger human beings. It is only through adversity that individuals and nations will be creative and will be great. And therefore, if we can give meaning to whatever work we are doing, whether we are teaching in the class or we are doing a job somewhere over there, we can turn suffering into a triumph. Therefore, suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. We have to give it meaning. And I think that is an important aspect for us to understand. So what is this wartime leadership model that I've been talking about? Wartime leadership model is that a child has to be entrepreneurial minded. And this goes for teachers also. When I say child, it includes teacher, because if teachers are not entrepreneurial minded, the child cannot be entrepreneurial minded. And To be an entrepreneurial minded, I have explained to you earlier on, is that to have those competencies like creativity, critical thinking, empathy, teamwork, collaboration, problem definition, risk taking, resilience, ability to deal with failure. This has now become more and more important. And the challenge for us, ladies and gentlemen, is that in our society in general, we overprotect our children. And that is the worst thing that we can do to destroy the child's future. We overprotect them, overprotect her. So she is always looking over her shoulders. What do I do now? All the critical decisions in her life are being taken by other people. Which college she should go to, what subject she should choose, what job she should take, whom should she marry, when should she start a family. All the critical decisions are being taken by somebody else. Talking in general in our society today. So she's disempowered. She has no empower. She's not an empowered person over there. So she can't be an entrepreneur. So there has to be a complete mind turn, 180 degrees mind turn to be entrepreneurial minded. To be entrepreneurial minded means to say, I am empowered. I think, therefore I am. I am innovative. I am an innovator. Therefore, you give me any situation today, any problem, I look at that problem as an opportunity, and I will turn that opportunity into a reality. Now, this is the mindset which we require for our children when they graduate from grade 12. So, what is Indus doing about getting your child startup ready? We're going to start a startup school, and we have got two Indus parents working very closely with us. They're both very well known people in society. We've got the best brains in Bangalore working with us, the best entrepreneurs, the best venture capitalists. The tie is, what do you call, NASCOM, the Knowledge Park. People who are from Silicon Valley are now living in Bangalore over here. Successful people in Silicon Valley over here. With their help, the startup school will start from grade 9 to grade 12. And your children will be required to do both. It's never been done before, so it's an experiment. So we're going to experiment with 30 kids. And I'm 100% certain that experiment will succeed. Thereafter, we'll upgrade it to 100 kids next year and transport it to Hyderabad and Pune. So it's an experiment. So children will be picked up, selected after a tough round at grade 9, 10, and 11. They will have to do their normal MYP and their DP, and they'll have to do at least 3 to 4 hours every week at home or on campus in their startup assignments and startup curriculum. If they can't do that, then they are not capable of being entrepreneurs. We saw this early January. We had gone to Israel, and in many of their schools, or some of their schools, not many, some of their schools, nearly 1/3 of their children are doing a program, not in innovation, but they're doing a twinning degree. So a grade 9 girl attends Indus in the morning, and in the afternoon, she goes to Stanford University, or the best university in India, and she is doing her degree. She's not doing at Indus, she may be doing MYP, but there she is doing astrophysics, she's doing higher maths, she's doing statistics, she's doing cyber crimes. And when she graduates from the school, she also graduates from university. At the end of that, of course, they go to join the army. And those who do that join the elite units of the armed forces. There, the placement is how to place the person in which elite unit of their defense forces, not of the Ivy League colleges. And after they have done their stint in the defense forces, they take 7-8 figure salaries as young kids from the top AI companies of Israel. They're not interested in Harvard and Princeton. That they will do later on, maybe when they're 32 or 33. In any case, their universities are also very high class universities. So they don't need to go there. So this is the way the world is moving to. And this startup school is something very, very important. And I will urge grade 9 parents and grade 8 parents and grade 9 parents uh, pay very, very particular attention to. Those who get selected for the startup school, you have no concern. You put them in our hands. We have the leadership school at Kanakpura. We have the leadership curriculum in our school, which focuses on purpose, deep reading, and goal setting. And now we are, from June onwards, the principal of Pune is being sidestepped back on my staff as the chief philosophy officer. No school, no university in the world has got a chief philosophy officer. Because we believe that in this new AI driven world of bioengineering, machine learning, coronas, pandemics, and all these things, the ethical dimensions, the moral dimensions of man are more important. In fact, when we were in Israel, which is a startup nation, the head of the space agency, who's also the university professor, he said that one of the key reasons why entrepreneurs are failing today is because they lack ethical dimensions. So, for success of an entrepreneur, it's very important to have an ethical mind. So, we have got a principle board to ensure that the startup school ethics are taken care of, and the ethics on all our three campuses or four campuses are taken care of. So, this is something very, very important for you to understand. I don't have to tell you about the community school because you have already seen that. I don't have to tell you about the great community outreach which we are doing over there. Ladies and gentlemen, our empathy levels are on the decline. Look at the way our migrant labor, about 2 to 3 million people, 20 to 30 million labor, they are walking in this heat, pregnant women, small children, and it doesn't seem to turn anybody's heart. Our hearts have become cold. In this future world, we have to warm the hearts of our children because they have great oodles of empathy. And therefore, community outreach, community service becomes a most critical aspect of their being an entrepreneur. The second definition, I would say, portrait of a wartime leader is that the leader has to be innovative. Ladies and gentlemen, if the lead number one is not innovative, number two and number 10 cannot be innovative. Those days, in the good old days, we had a guy called an idea man. And he or she used to churn out all these great creative ideas. And there was a team of people who would implement them. कि भाई इसको implement करो. That doesn't work now. You have to be an idea person and an action person rolled into one. So if you want innovation culture in an organization, number one has to be an innovator. Be Steve Jobs. But at the same time, innovation has to be bottom up. For sustainability, innovation has to be bottom up. So all students, all teachers have to be innovative, or most of them have to be innovative. This is the challenge. I think it's very important for me to overemphasize this point is because if our children are not innovative, they have no future at all. They'll not be able to reskill themselves. And same with teachers, they'll not be able to reskill themselves. And if a person who cannot reskill themselves in this accelerated movement that is taking place in the world today, they have no political value and therefore no economic value. Rather, I'll put it the other way around: no economic value and no political value. So it's very, very important for us to understand that things like design thinking are is a lifeline for every unit. Every unit must have design thinking. There's no point in knowing knowledge about. It's not going to serve any purpose. How do you apply that knowledge in an innovative manner? That comes through design thinking, which is a very easy process over there. Therefore, so let's not get worried about what IB is saying or what CBSE or IGCSE is saying. You should be worried about what is important for the child's future. We can justify those things. And I think that is the sort of a wartime approach, wartime mentality that we need to have. So we cannot be poodle minded. We have to be Rottweiler minded. And the third thing is personalization. At Indus and every school in the world, 90% of a teacher's time is spent in routine, absolute routine work. Preparation for the class, 4 periods tomorrow morning, homework, formative tests, summative assignments, monitoring the academic process like revision, support classes, marks, totaling them up, clustering them, Indus campus duties over there. She has no time for your child. We are living in an illusion. We are living in an illusion, ladies and gentlemen, if we think that she has time for your child. Now, with the introduction of robots, robots take over these routine and mundane activities of a child. And let me tell you, they do it as effectively, if not more effectively, than human beings. So the teacher now focuses on your child. She focuses on developing those competencies to be entrepreneurial minded. She focuses on your child to give her emotional support where it is required. She focuses her attention on the child to personalize her learning, to help us personalize our learning over there. She now has got 90% of her time for your child. This is the magic we have brought about by robots, and in the next session, you'll see more robots. We'll end up with 5 robots in the middle school and the 4th and 5th grades in primary, and Hyderabad and Pune will have the same share. So this is a very, very important thing for us to understand. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to want all parents, and through parents, children, to look at Corona as a positive experience. It is a positive experience because it is crucible, and because it is crucible, it is life altering. It is a strong message. Corona is a steroid that is going to boost our innovative capabilities. Had Corona not happened, nobody would have been, we've been shouting from the rooftops, innovation, innovation. But it took Corona for people to see the writing in the clear blue skies, pollution-free skies today. That Corona is a reminder that your future lies in being innovative. So it's a disruptor. Like in business, you got great disruption. This is a disruption in society to force us to become innovative, which is a very good thing, excellent thing. What we could not achieve all these years, ever since we gained our independence, we are going to do it now. Better late than never. It has also given us the realization that innovation is the only vaccine against COVID-19. There is no other vaccine. There is no other drug. It is the only vaccine. It is an assured vaccine. And the people who are struggling today as a result of what has happened, Corona and all these things, economic situation today, is because of the absence of innovation. Those who are innovative, they are surviving. And they'll pull themselves out very quickly. The second very important thing is that it has made us humble. We become very arrogant. Money was very important. We only talk to people who got money, who are millionaires, billionaires, who celebrities. We become so arrogant that we even question who's God. We question the authority of God, the moral authority of our scriptures. And therefore, as I say, there is something in sickness which breaks down the pride of man. And that is what COVID-19 has done. It has broken down the pride of man. It is making us humble. It is helping us to be humble by reconnecting. We had lost complete track of who we are, where we are going, and what is our future. We had no time for us. We knew everything about business, about IT, about all the subjects under the sun. We knew nothing, absolutely nothing about ourselves. Now we are reconnecting, introspecting, reflecting, contemplating. So all these issues, aspects of the mind, education of the mind, which are not, I don't blame everybody because our schools in the world have only focused on education of the head. We never spoke of education of the heart, emotions, and mind, spirituality. So now we are being recentered. Pause button, and we're being recentered. Now focus on the philosophical issues of life. And I would finally like to say that a question which is often asked is, when will school reopen? With all humility, we are not oracles. We have no idea when it's going to open. We can make guesstimates. But the decision is going to be at a very, very high level. And the decision will not be only guided, as far as children are concerned, by economics or by hope. It will be guided by data, by doctors, and by immunologists. When they feel that our children are safe to go out, they are our most precious asset. We cannot, under any circumstances, expose them. So when it's going to happen, we don't know. But when it does happen, we should be ready to receive them back into school. And therefore, in collaboration with Apollo Hospitals, Indus has worked out a very comprehensive set of protocols, safety protocols, health protocols, legal protocols, financial protocols, right from the time your child catches the bus till she returns home. John, our share with you. We are still to finalize and fine tune certain other aspects, but as and when that is completed, hopefully very soon, we will share this document with you. That is for certain. Uh, Finally, I would like to thank you all once again for having given us a very patient hearing. Mrs. Rao and our complete team is here. I'm also over here. So if there are any issues or questions which are bothering you, or you would like to ask, you're most welcome. So thank you very much.